Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. This is episode 3 of the Count on It podcast. Tonight's subject, the death of a pope. Of course, we're talking about Pope Francis, who reportedly passed yesterday, just a day after meeting with J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States. Of course, back in February, we were given reports that the Pope was on his deathbed, and then he seemingly battled through and was given a clean bill of health, and it looked like he was on the mend. And then just boom, on April 21st, the anniversary of the establishment of Rome, he kicks the bucket. And we're going to talk about several things in tonight's broadcast. We're going to go over all that is suspicious about his death on April 21st, the anniversary of Prince's passing. Of course, Prince had the song about the Pope where he said he'd rather be the Pope than the President. As you'll see, this has a lot to do with the Pope and President Trump. It's also the anniversary of the Queen's birth. And we'll talk about why it matters that the Queen became Queen in 52. I'm talking about Elizabeth. And of course, she died in recent history on the Virgin Mary's birthday, September 8th. Very Catholic day. But yeah, we're going to get into great detail with the Pope's passing at 88, again, on Rome's birthday, April 21st. We're also going to talk about why Klaus Schwab, the Jesuit who ran the World Economic Forum, stepped down on the exact same day, saying that it was his time while in his 88th year of life. Again, Klaus Schwab, a Jesuit. Pope Francis was the first Jesuit pope. We're going to bring all this together in spades. If you're new to my work, I've always shown how Bitcoin is Jesuit controlled. A lot of people, that is news to them because they think this is the thing to save the world, but it is completely a Jesuit contrived currency. And that's why it surged up to 88,000 on the day of the Pope's death at 88, and it surged up even more since. It'll be very interesting what it does by April 27th, the 117th day of the year. If I remember, I'll get into why that is. We'll also talk a little bit more about the Pope being hospitalized on Valentine's Day, day written February 14th, 214, as we'd write it in the U.S., 214, and then dying on April 21st, a day that in Rome would be written 21/4, another 214. And then the head of the Vatican after the Pope's passing is a cardinal out of Dallas, Texas, Kevin Farrell. Dallas is the 214 area code. What are the odds that a man from the 214 would become the acting head of the Vatican on 21/4? All seems a bit too ritualistic. One of the things that we're going to get to tonight that will probably really blow a lot of people's minds, especially if they're new here, is the band Slipknot. They have the song Gematria, the killing name. Of course, that's what we primarily talk about on this podcast. Gematria, the Kabbalistic practice of coding numbers into words and how it reveals so many things. Again, Pope Francis' birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, for example, equates to 111. He's dead on the 111th day of the year. Pope Francis equates to 59, and Pope equates to 52. We're going to get to how Slipknot performed the song Gematria, the killing name, on the 59th day of the year, and the Pope died 52 days later, which becomes extra interesting when you realize that the song was recorded in 2008, had never been performed live before until February 28th, and Corey Taylor, the singer of the band, literally 666 days before the performance, said he would only ever perform that song if it was for the Pope. Yeah, we're going to put it all together. It's no accident. And if you're new to my work, I got books out there. My 2017 book goes into the song Gematria, the killing name, and how relevant it is to worldly affairs. This song has never been more relevant than what has just happened to the Pope. By the way, the title of the song, Gematria, the killing name, equals 214. Going with the Pope's death on 21/4. We'll really break it down because there's a lot more to it. We'll also talk about why the Pope born on Saturnalia will be buried on this Saturday and why this specific Saturday is so relevant to Saturnalia and human sacrifices. If you don't know what Saturnalia is, it's an ancient Roman festival that had a lot to do with sacrifice. We'll bring that together. Again, we're going to talk about how there's a major connection with Trump. Trump, who runs on Mega, the highest degree of the Church of Satan. Satan, if you're new here, has a gematria value of 55. The Pope will get buried on Melania. That's Trump's wife's 55th birthday. We'll bring that detail in. And then also what's making the rounds is the prophecy of Malachi. Very old prophecy that says this Pope, the one that was Pope Francis, will be the last Pope. We actually covered this back in 2020. I wrote a little bit about this in my book, Number Games. It was in the headlines around the same time Kobe Bryant died. If you're not familiar with this prophecy of Saint Malachi, again, it's another mind-blowing piece. We can only hope it's not true. Otherwise, we better all have our, billionaire bunker close by. Also, and even one more thing that you wouldn't expect to be related, but it was a big story on the same day the Pope died. Shannon Sharp, his accusation. We'll see how these things are actually not unrelated, but truly tied together and really connected to the pattern I talked about in the last stream, that 56 thing, a big number with the Pope. So, yeah, we're going to go over all these topics. If you've already seen the work I've done on my Gematria Effect News 25 channel on YouTube, a lot of this will be redundant, but redundancy can be good if you're trying to learn the material and get it stuck in your head so that you can share it with others. There will be some new things here too. And if all goes to plan, we'll take a few calls at the end, and perhaps the community will even be able to add some extra details, because we have some great researchers in this community and people who dig up facts that I often overlook. So we will do that at the end of the stream. And also, just one other thing. Somebody suggested that I start having a weekly submission of questions and take the top questions and respond to those each week. I'm happy to do that as well. A great place to leave the question would be on the Gematria Effect News 25 channel, where this is live streaming for the time being. Pretty soon this will move over to the new Count On It podcast channel, but YouTube still has not enabled live streaming on that channel. So until then, we'll be broadcasting the Count On It podcast. It's live recording on Gematria Effect News 25 on YouTube, exactly where we're broadcasting right now. Okay, so the Pope dead at 88, again on Rome's birthday. Rome was established April 21st, 753, supposedly by two wolves. And if you don't know the name of those two wolves, look up their names and run the gematria. You will see that the name of the two wolves equates to 214, a lot like the date 21/4, what's going to become a recurring theme. But just starting with Rome, the gematria of Holy Roman Empire is 88. Pope Francis, dead at 88, and on the anniversary of Rome's establishment. They came out and said his official cause of death was a stroke. The most simple cipher. A, B, C is 1, 2, 3. Just the alphabetic order. A is 1 up to Z is 26. Stroke equates to 88. Again, for a little refresher, there are 4 base ciphers of the English language. We'll be referencing all 4 tonight. Again, I learned about this in the nearly 100-year-old text, Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. The 4 ciphers are the alphabetic order, the reverse alphabetic order, and both orders with numerology applied. If you take the alphabetic order with numerology applied, instead of stroke equating to 88, it equates to 25. So does Pope, so does Vatican. And what a fitting cause of death for the Pope in 2025. With regards to him dying on the anniversary of Prince's passing, remember Prince had the hit song, I Would Die For You, where he spelled it with the number 4 and the letter U. U is the 21st letter of the alphabet. So his song, in letters to numbers, the translation is, I Would Die 421. Prince died on 421, April 21st. He died on the Queen's birthday. And again, the Queen became the Queen in 52, like Pope equals 52. But what makes this more interesting is Prince, that song was on Purple Rain. Of course, purple is associated with royalty. It's also associated with poison in the most simple cipher. Purple, poison, Elizabeth. they all equate to 88. And again, Queen Elizabeth did die on the Virgin Mary's birthday, a very Catholic death, as we covered then. If you want to further your gematria skills, you can access online calendar calculators that if you just type in the word, it'll show you all 4 values at once. I have it at my website, GematriaEffectNews. Another calculator with a lot of bonus features is gematrinator.com. So GematriaEffect.news. By the way, at my website, you can download the calculators for your Android or Apple device for free. It's an offline calculator. You don't even need an internet connection. You can quickly calculate the value of words. Or again, gematrinator.com. A lot of bells and whistles on that website. But if you type in purple and poison, you'll actually see that they are the exact same in all 4 ciphers. Same value in all 4 ciphers. And those values are 88, 34, 74, 29. And they're interesting values because murder equals 34, killing equals 74, as does gematria. We'll get to how gematria, the killing name, was performed on the 74th day of the Pope's age. But yeah, some deadly numbers that show up a lot in ritualistic deaths within purple and poison. When again, historically, purple, the color, represents poison. Purple rain, the day Prince died, is now the day the Pope died. With regards to the President of the United States, if you want to go back and watch my work the night of his selection, when they said he got 312 electoral college votes, I made the point right then. I said, well, you know, the Pope's turning 88, Trump equals 88, and the Pope's birth name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 312. The Pope has now died on the 312th day of Trump's age, after he had the election rigged for him by the numbers, defeating Kamala, who had her DNC in the 312 area code. And we'll get to why Shannon Sharp from Chicago, the 312, was shamed on the same day at age 56. But again, Trump has this connection to 88 as well in a big way. It's a huge number with Trump. So many rituals with Trump over the years in 88, including the Mar-a-Lago raid on 88. But yeah, Trump is also 88 and 25. Again, felon also has that connection. He's the first felon president in 2025. With regards to Trump being Jesuit educated at Fordham, I'd encourage you to look at my older work on Fordham University and how important 88 is to the history of that university. It will blow your mind. Again, that's the Jesuit institution that Trump went to. The word Jesuit itself equates to 21. The first Jesuit pope's dead on the 21st of the month. Jesuit also equates to 78. That's how old Trump is right now at this time of the ritual with the Pope. And mind you, in 1978, 2 popes died in 78. That was a fateful year for popes. 2 died in 78. The second to die was the shortest pope in the history of the Vatican. That was the 33-day pope who went to bed on September 27th, the anniversary of the Jesuits being recognized by the Roman Catholic Church, and he never woke up again. And it matters that he was the 33-day pope because arsenic equates to 33, and it's the 33rd element on the periodic table, whereas arsenic poisoning equates to 88, just like poison itself equates to 88. Again, remember, there's a way with the alphabetic order and with numerology applied. And the other 2 ciphers are the reverse alphabetic order and the reverse alphabetic order with numerology applied. But again, the 33-day pope, he went to bed on the big Jesuit day, never woke up again. And if you look into the history of the Jesuits, they are known for poisoning with arsenic. There's a lot of accusations over the years of people the Jesuits killed, and it's commonly believed that their favorite method is through arsenic poisoning. If you're not aware, if you're poisoned with arsenic and you're not tested, it looks like you died from severe flu. So yeah, here we are now while Trump's 78 and the first Jesuit pope dies. Again, just a real simple one. The alphabetic order with numerology, Jorge Mario Bergoglio equates to 111. He died on the 111th day of the year. On the same day, the Jesuit Klaus Martin Schwab, whose name equals 111, resigned, saying that he was up there in his 88th year of life. Now, with regards to the last celebrity the Pope meeting with the day prior being J.D. Vance of the Republican Party, again, we talked about this in our Sunday night broadcast. The Republican Party equates to 214, and if you apply numerology, it equates to 88. The 214 thing, the 88 thing. Again, Trump's also 88. Just a reminder, to bring Prince back into it, since we're on the Prince death anniversary, the first time Trump won office in 2016, that was the 58th presidential election. Trump announced from the 58-story Trump Tower. In 2016, you had the 58th Grammys, and Prince's girlfriend or ex-girlfriend died the day of the 58th Grammys, which was also the anniversary of Prince's mother's death. That girlfriend was Vanity. If you want to look up my friend Jeff Young, he's the former guitarist of Megadeth, Jeff Young of Music Without Boundaries. He still has our archived episode on his show, Music Without Boundaries, Jeff Young. You got to do that web search. It's in February of 2016. It's days after the Grammys. Jeff and I talked about why Prince was on the chopping block, and he would be in the obituaries very soon, so he better look out. Again, Prince died shortly after on April 21st, and he died 47 days before his birthday in the year they elected Trump, who also has the 47 connection in Gematria, just like president, like White House, like government, like authority, like Republican, like Democrat, like Vatican, like Francis. But anyway, there were a lot of 58 rituals that year with Trump in his lead up to the White House. For the record, Purple Rain equates to 58, as does Pope Francis, as does Freemasonry. Remember, the Pope became a Jesuit in 1958. All of those words equate to 58. They also all equate to 59 when you run it the other way. So Purple Rain, Pope Francis, and Freemasonry all equate to 58 and 59. And don't forget, this nation, the United States of America, modern Freemasonry was founded in 1717. This nation was founded 59 years later in 1776. If you're not familiar with Freemasonry, look into it. Look into the common pose by Masons known as the hidden hand, and just do a web search for Pope Francis doing the hidden hand. Did it numerous times in his life, showing you that he's part of the club. And Catholics might take issue with that because if you're a Catholic, you're not allowed to be a Freemason. But remember, those are rules for common people. You know, there's rules for common people, and then there's rules for the ruling class, where a lot of these people are in secret societies. And the first word of that phrase is what's key: secret. Things you're not supposed to know about. But if you know what they do and you know their symbolism, you see how a lot of times they're flashing what they're really all about, like the Pope doing the hidden hand. Also noteworthy about the day the Pope died. In numerology, there are different paths to extract a number, and they will all break down to the same root digit. So, for example, the day the Pope died, the numerology was 7, and they said he died at 7:35 a.m. local time. We'll come back to that specific 35 minutes after the hour, but he died at 7 a.m. in minutes on a 7-date numerology. One of the paths is adding the day in chunks. 4 plus 21 plus 20 plus 25 is 70. 70 would be 7 plus 0 is 7, but that 70 is key because in the most simple cipher, Vatican and Francis both equate to 70. Another path is the life lesson number, and you add the day plus the month, 4 plus 21, which is 25, and then you add the year part by part, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, which is 9 more, so you have 25 plus 9, which is 34. With numerology applied, Francis is 34. And obviously, if you just add the day and the month, 4 plus 21, you have 25. Like Pope, Vatican, Stroke, Trump, they're all 25. So, with regards to J.D. Vance, the counterpart to Trump, again, he met with the Pope on Easter Sunday. The Pope dies the next day on Easter Monday, which was the 263rd day of J.D. Vance's age. 263. We talked about this number in the Sunday broadcast. I talked about how important it was to September 11th and how 263 days after I spoke at the base of the World Trade Centers on 9/11, YouTube deleted my entire channel that had that trip from coast to coast, Seattle to New York, gathering truth seekers city by city to talk about 9/11 and other events that were relevant to the cities we passed through. Like when we were in Minneapolis, George Floyd, when we were in Cleveland, LeBron won in the finals on the real King James's birthday. When we were in Milwaukee, we talked about a number of interesting things, including Jeffrey Dahmer. Anyway, when we were in Buffalo, we talked about the white supremacist shooting. When we were in Chicago, there's a ton of people came out and we talked about everything. But anyway, J.D. Vance, 263rd day of his age, the 56th prime number, big time number, like we talked about on Sunday night. Pope equals 56. Society of Jesus equals 56. Washington, D.C. equals 56. This number is omnipresent in the rituals performed by the cabal. The word cult equals 56. Occultism is 56. All-seeing eye is 56. Very special number. Pretty much anytime something massive happens on the world stage, there's a 56 stamped right on it. And like I said on Sunday night, J.D. Vance meeting with the Pope on the 110th day of the year, to me foreshadows that history is going to repeat itself with McKinley and Teddy Roosevelt, with Trump being the new McKinley. Remember, McKinley was the 25th president, and J.D. Vance being the new Teddy Roosevelt. The Pope met with J.D. Vance again on the 110th day of the year. President equals 110. I think it's only a matter of time. Now, here's another big kicker. Now, I think we talked about this in the inaugural broadcast of this show, the parallels between the Jesuits and the Church of Satan. Church of Satan equates to 214, another 214. It also equates to 56. It also equates to 70. All numbers we've hit in this ritual already. But what's wild is they're going to mourn the Pope for 9 days after his death, meaning the mourning period will end on April 30th, which will be the Church of Satan's birthday. And it will be the Church of Satan's 59th birthday. It was established April 30th, 1966. It matters that it'll be the 59th birthday because Pope Francis equates to 59. Remember, Benedict stepped down on the 59th day of the year for Pope Francis, February 28th, and more recently, Slipknot performed Gematria, the killing name, on the 59th day of the year after the singer said they would only perform it for the Pope. Again, the 59th U.S. presidential election is the one that gave us Joe Biden as number 46, exactly 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, after the death of Beau Biden at 46, when Catholic equals 46, and so does sacrifice. The last Super Bowl in the time of the Pope was 59, and that Super Bowl was won by the Eagles, who play in the 267 area code. That's interesting because the next Pope is going to be the 267th. And you might have seen that Jalen Hurts has a big headline today, the quarterback for the Eagles. He married a woman named Bly Burrow. Of course, Burrow is the surname of one of the star quarterbacks in the NFL right now, Joe Burrow, who plays for the Bengals. And just for the record, Bengals equals 60. Next year's Super Bowl is Super Bowl 60, and it'll be 60 days after Joe Burrow's birthday. If you're paying attention, a lot of these things can lead to big cashing futures. But anyway, from the Pope being hospitalized on Valentine's Day to his death was a span of 67 days. Satanic equals 67. Easter Monday equals 67. I closed out Sunday night show talking about how often 67 shows up in celebrity death. Here's the very next day. Human sacrifice equates to 67, as does blood sacrifice, as does soul, S-O-U-L. All these 67s. Hollywood put out the movie Conclave last year on October 25th, the day leaving 67 days left in the year. And in the days before the Oscars, where Conclave had all these nominations and was getting a lot of attention, the news broke that the Pope was on his deathbed. And we were pointing this out at the time. And if you were watching my work back in the middle of February when the Pope was sick, we were drawing these parallels and saying, wait a minute. This is happening, right after this movie comes out and it's getting all this attention. Now the Pope's on his deathbed on Valentine's Day. It's hard to get more Catholic than Valentine's Day. Can only be outdone by Easter and Christmas. But I speculated then when the news broke, because if you were following the Pope story in February, they were saying he was days from dying. They made it seem like he was going to die any day. I said, I won't be surprised if he dies on February 28th, the 59th day of the year. That number has been so important to him. And then lo and behold, obviously, that's not what it goes down in is the history books. But we see why, again, Slipknot performed the song for the Pope on that very day. Again, when our predictions aren't right on the money, they're usually not that far off. We're on the scent. For the record, from that movie coming out to his hospitalization was 112 days later. That's a very interesting number because Catholicism equals 112, mathematics equals 112. If you look up the Jesuits, they claim to operate in 112 countries. I always love the mathematics 112 thing because 1 + 1 is 2. These people are counting. They synced up a calendar and a language. They've been counting ever since, unknown to almost everybody else, which is why we're here on the grind day after day trying to wake up the masses. Imagine if every Catholic, every English-speaking Catholic had this knowledge overnight. Imagine how quickly the world could change. It really could if people had the knowledge and actually took the time to observe how relevant it is day after day. That is the mission here. So, coming back to this 67 thing and satanic equaling 67 and the last day of mourning being the 59th birthday of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, died at 67. He died at age 67, Anton LaVey. Again, the Church of Satan was founded in San Francisco, named after Saint Francis of Assisi, the same person that Pope Francis is named after. And again, St. Francis of Assisi founded the Franciscan order, which was the precursor to the Jesuits. But look at this in the base ciphers for Pope Francis. Pope Francis in the most simple cipher equals 122, just like San Francisco equals 122, and it's the city on the 122nd meridian, and the big basketball team there, Golden State, that also equals 122. It's talked about in the last broadcast, the ritual they did with Pope Francis, the Warriors, the 2022 NBA Finals. Anyhow, the word satanic, when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, also equates to 122. San Francisco, satanic, 122. What a place to found the Church of Satan. Again, Pope Francis with numerology applied is 59. We made that clear. Last day of mourning on the 59th birthday of the Church of Satan. When you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Pope Francis equates to 175, also like Golden State. Again, the Warriors made the Celtics 17-5 the last time they met in the finals, and they also beat the Celtics on the Pope's birthday, December 17th. This time around, what's interesting is if you go back to what the NBA did this year on the Pope's birthday, the NBA has that new in-season tournament. This year, the Bucks beat the Thunder on the Pope's birthday. And what stood out to me about the day the Pope died in light of the NBA season is the anniversary of the Jesuits being recognized by the Roman Catholic Church is September 27th. From that day to the Pope's death was 206 days later. And that's the Seattle area code. And one of the front runners to win the finals this year is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who began as the Seattle Supersonics. And Seattle won the championship in 79, whereas this is the 79th NBA season. And what else is interesting is there's only one team in the whole league that equals 88, and it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Okay, coming back to the Pope Francis thing, if you run his name in reverse with numerology, again, it equals 58, like he became a Jesuit in 58. The 4 base ciphers are Jorge Mario Bergoglio. I've already made a big point numerous times in the episode how his full name equates to 201 with the most simple cipher of the alphabetic order. He's the first Jesuit Pope. He's the first to live in Suite 201 at the Vatican. Again, the Jesuit order equates to 201, as does the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola. Again, the Jesuits were created in history 201 months after Martin Luther penned the 95 Theses, and they were preserved by Catherine the Great in the time of their suppression with 201 Jesuit priests. Again, 201 days passed in the calendar year, and then the Pope suppressed the Jesuits on the 202nd day. Here are some mind-blowing 201s in the Pope's death. The solar eclipse in Argentina that just happened in October, that was October 2nd, 201 days before the Pope died. Remember, Event 201 was the pandemic simulation the day the military world games began in Wuhan, China. The shot went live in the US the day of the total solar eclipse in Argentina, the Pope's country. And if you look up the man who coined the term corona in relation to the light that faintly shows around the sun in a total solar eclipse, his name equates to 201. So there's actually a 201 connected to solar eclipses. 201 days, again, after the last solar eclipse in the Pope's country, the Pope dies. The next day, October 3rd, is the anniversary of St. Francis of Assisi's death. St. Francis of Assisi. So from his death to the Pope's death would be 200 days later, or you could also say their deaths are now a span of 201 days apart. If you include October 3rd through April 21st and you count all those days, that's a total span of 201 days. If you have trouble following that, imagine your birthday is today, April 22nd, the day of this broadcast. Tomorrow, April 23rd, would be one day after your birthday, but it would be your second day of your age. So that's the span of 2 days. Okay, again, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the Pope's name when ran in reverse, equates to 312. Trump got 312 electoral college votes. The Pope dies on the 312th day of Trump's age. And then also Shannon Sharp becomes a big headline, and he's from the 312 area code. The Pope's name in reverse with numerology equates to 105, just for the record. 105 and 201 in the same ciphers equate with Order of Illuminati. Again, the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt created the Order of Illuminati. And by the way, Adam Weishaupt died in history 201 days after the anniversary of the Illuminati's establishment. It's kind of like how State of Israel equates to 201, and the first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, died 201 days after the anniversary of Israel's establishment. But I also want to make a point about Trump. It is true that the Pope died on the 312th day of his age. You could also say that the Pope died 311 days after his birthday. That matters because the number 201 is the number 311 in base 8 counting. Again, it's kind of like how Event 201 was the pandemic simulation, and then the pandemic was declared on March 11th, a date that in the US we write 3/11. And for the rest of the world who writes it 11/3, just for the record, coronavirus pandemic equals 113. Again, running dates both ways, there's a lot of relevance. And over the years, I've always found people say that I cherry pick by running the date both ways, but so often if you look at it, you'll see how it does make sense both ways. And again, it's not me who decided that part of the world was going to run the date this way and another part of the world was going to run the date this way. I think those things have been done intentionally for the exact ritualism of it. And I think it's the same reason that the U.S. stays on this nonsensical measurement system rather than getting on the metric system, which pretty much the entire world uses, which makes a lot more sense because it's perfectly divisible units. Again, it's things like how Order of Illuminati equates to 93 and Illuminati equates to 150. The sun is 150 million kilometers away on average and 93 million miles away on average. And funny enough, both of those numbers are connected to the Illuminati, which means illuminated, and what illuminates the world other than the sun. And let's not forget the model that says the sun's at the center of it all is heliocentrism, which also equates to 201, like Order of Illuminati. And that model was agreed to in the 16th century, the century of the Jesuits, when the Jesuit order equates to 201. Again, the Catholic Church worships the sun initially. The Jesuit order's logo is the sun. Start to look at all these elementary facts, the pieces of the puzzle come together. And let's not forget that Trump's face is also in the Illuminati card game, and it's the Enough is Enough card, which equals 78, which is his current age. with maybe the biggest ritual ever connected to Trump is the death of this Jesuit Pope. There's been a lot of big rituals with Trump, so that's a big statement, but the Pope is the big man on the world stage, and now he's dead at 88 in connection to the man who I've called Mr. 88 since 2015, when he announced he was running for president, and it's been one 88 ritual after the next. Also, let us not forget Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan. He died 201 days after his April 11th birthday, dying 2 days before Halloween on October 29th. Anton LaVey did 201 days after his birthday. And he also died 201 days before May 18th, which was Pope John Paul II's birthday, who was the sitting pope at the time. Don't forget that Catholic Pope also equates to 201 in Gematria. I've always said that the Jesuit fingerprints are all over the Church of Satan. Literally, Church of Satan equals Society of Jesus. But really the first Jesuit Pope dying perfectly synced with the Church, whose name is 59, whose papacy was defined largely by that number. And now the last day of mourning is really going to be on the Church of Satan's 59th birthday. And don't forget that Obama joked with Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, April 30th, 2011, which was the Church of Satan's 45th birthday, that Trump would become the 45th president. And every year, the Church of Satan's birthday is 45 days before Trump's June 14th birthday. And by the way, IHS, the acronym in the Jesuit Order's logo, that's also 45. But yeah, this Church of Satan is something else. And I'm going to throw a name out there. You might know this name, you might not. Mark Passio. Mark Passio, Jesuit educated, from Philadelphia. He speaks out on the internet. He teaches natural law. Well, I think he retired last year because he's fed up with the world. But he often brags about being a hand-picked priest for the Church of Satan by Anton LaVey. And he's Jesuit educated. And if you're not familiar with him, you might want to watch his earlier videos when he first started, when he was a lot more mellow. His last year of broadcast was just totally fed up with the world. And his last broadcast, to me, was doing some major gatekeeping. He spent a lot of his final broadcast. He said it would probably be his final broadcast. It remains to be seen if he ever comes back. But he spent a lot of his final broadcast mocking anybody who would say that the Jesuits are a large influence on the world stage. And I thought, how ironic is this from a Jesuit-educated man who's a former priest in the Church of Satan to mock the idea of the significance of the Jesuits? Again, you couldn't get a more perfect guy to cover it up. That said, there are a lot of good things that Mark Passio has done over the years in his teachings. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And one other thing is weird is his radio show. I've probably called into at least 50 times over the years, probably a lot more than that, really. You can look it up. The only time he ever took my call was in episode 201. And then by taking the call, he kind of tried to downplay everything and say that all of this is synchro-mysticism, which is essentially to say just the way the universe works, which I highly disagree with. Okay. So yeah, just some of these 201s. The Pope dead 201 days after the eclipse in his country. Again, Jose Joaquin de Fer is who coined the term corona in regards to the light that shows around the sun in the time of eclipse. His name is 201. We covered that's in my 2020 book, Number Games, if you've never read it, along with a lot of other important facts about 201. Also noteworthy, when the Pope was first ill, when he was hospitalized, they said he was hospitalized due to a polymicrobial respiratory tract infection. You'd never believe what that phrase equates to, or maybe you would. It equates to 201. And again, just one more time, dead a span of 201 days from St. Francis of Assisi's passing anniversary, which is October 3rd. Pope Francis was the Pope for 145 months and 8 days. Or I guess technically 9 days if you count the span, but the 145 months is what's key. Catholic equates to 145. There's 145 more chapters in the Catholic Old Testament, which is the Jewish section. And interestingly enough, Jewish does equate to 88. And remember, the merger, the relationship of the Catholics and the Jews through Jesuitism came about because of Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation, where Martin Luther targeted Catholicism and Judaism. He said there could not be a decent society if these religions were a part of it. Martin Luther saw Catholicism and Judaism as plagues on humanity. And again, that brought about the alliance. And no doubt that's how this Jewish mysticism, which is Kabbalah, which is where this practice of coding numbers into words comes from. And for the record, the phrase Jewish mysticism also equates to 201, just like State of Israel. So, with regards to the Pope dying at 7:35 a.m. local time. Now, remember, the first Catholic president was number 35. JFK killed on I-35. Catholic equates to 35. Holy See equates to 35. And that's the territories the Catholic Church controls. Jesuitism equates to 35. We're going to get to how Slipknot equates to 35. And the Pope died exactly a span of 35 weeks from the anniversary of them recording Gematria, the killing name, which they said they would only perform for the Pope. One more time. The Jesuits, known for poisoning people with arsenic. Poison equals 88. So does arsenic poisoning. Is that really the true cause of death for the Pope? One wonders. A lot of people speculate that the 33-day Pope was killed with arsenic. And if you don't know what was controversial about the 33-day Pope's death, is when he came in as the Pope, he said he was going to get the mafia out of the Vatican bank. If you don't know this, the Vatican has its own central bank. There's 3 independent city-states in the world: Washington, D.C., the banking district of London. That's not all of London. London's divided into 33 neighborhoods. It's one of the 33 neighborhoods. And the other one is the Vatican. Those are the 3 independent city-states of the world. The Queen, London, the Pope, the Vatican, Trump, JD, Vance, DC, this triangular relationship. But 33-day Pope said he was going to get the mafia out of the Vatican bank. Mafia equates to 33. Another interesting tidbit to think about. With regards to the leader of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa, from his birthday to the death of the Pope was a span of 23 weeks. Easter equals 23, as does N. The Pope dies on Easter Monday. I've noticed the list of cardinals whose names they've released who are frontrunners to be the Pope. On that short list that everyone's syndicating, 2 of them are cardinals from the Philippines. And that matters because the current superior general is the leader of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa. He went to the Jesuit University in the Philippines. So I thought that, 2 of the frontrunners being from the Philippines, that stood out to me. I haven't done any real homework on who would make sense to be the next Pope, but I imagine the clues are floating out there. Also, with regards to Trump and J.D. Vance, when Trump went to the when Trump went to the Vatican on May 24th, 2017, shortly after taking the White House, his photo with the Pope, from that photo being taken to the death of the Pope, was 94 months and days. Easter equates to 94, as does Roman Catholic Church. From J.D. Vance converting to Catholicism August 11th, 2019, to the death of the Pope was 68 months and days. I might have misspoke a second ago. I might have said 94 weeks with Trump. If I said that, I meant to say 94 months and days. For J.D. Vance's conversion to the death is 68 months and days. Easter also equates to 68, as does Catholicism. And for the record, Helios equates to 6894, another name for the sun. When the Catholic Church worships the sun has a lot to do with these time rituals. It dictates time on this calendar that's named after a pope. Again, 52-week calendar for a pope, when in the most simple cipher, pope is 52. Also, you might have saw that Barack Obama got a lot of attention because when the Pope came to D.C., he stood next to Obama, who was the president at the time. Just a reminder, the Pope spoke at the White House September 23rd, 2015. That was the 266th day of the year as the 266th Pope. The Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, equates to 266. You might recall how big that was when Kobe died at 41 while traveling from Catholic Mass on the Pope's 41st day of his age. Kobe died exactly 266 days after his wife's birthday, which is also 38 weeks, reminiscent of Colorado, the 38th state where he had the affair, cheating on his wife. It's a whole other story. But yes, just about Jesuits and the things they control. The World Economic Forum, one of the most powerful organizations on Earth. The thing that simulated the pandemic on the day the military World Games began in Wuhan, China, before the pandemic began. That thing led by Jesuit-trained Klaus Schwab, who's from the Bavaria, Germany area where the Illuminati was founded, just like Henry Kissinger, another powerful man who was on the world stage for a very long time. But Klaus Schwab said it was time for him to step down in his 88th year of life. His own quote, again, his name, Klaus Martin Schwab, equates to 111, just like Jorge Mario Bergoglio equates to 111, going with his resignation, coming the day of the Pope's death, both of which were on the 111th day of the year. And for the record, he founded the World Economic Forum in 71. Catholic equates to 71. Sol Invictus equates to 71. Zeus equates to 71. And Zeus is important. You know, Jesus, Jupiter Zeus. Zeus is Jupiter in astrology. Thursday is the day of the week that has the same gematria as Catholic. 35 forwards, 46 in reverse. If you put a "the" in front of Society of Jesus, the Society of Jesus, 71. The war in Israel, remember, it began on Putin's 71st birthday, 71 days before the Pope's birthday, and a million other things. But yeah, the World Economic Forum's been very Catholic Jesuit from the beginning. And again, I mean, it's hard to look at these things and imagine that they could possibly be coincidental. Too many people have that word in their mouth. I do believe that some things are a coincidence, but I also know that people like to throw that word around way too often when it's not coincidence. It's like really every day in the media, they try to hit you with the coincidence programming. The Carmelo Anthony stabbing on the day that Carmelo Anthony's nominated to the Hall of Fame. You know, on 9/11, they try to tell you it was a coincidence that the military had all these confusing drills that were very similar to what was actually going on. That's why so many people didn't respond. And they thought it was just all part of the drill. Don't forget how 2 towers became 0 before they became 1, a lot like Jesuit Georgetown's motto, both into one. And oh, by the way, Klaus Schwab, his birthday is March 30th, meaning the ritual was 21 days later when Jesuit equates to 21. Think about how the 21st century got off to a bang with the World Trade Centers. Again, just Bitcoin just surging up like it's going straight up the side of the steepest mountain, up to 88,000 on the day the Pope's dead at 88. Just unbelievably in your face, undeniable ritual. For years, we've pointed out that Bitcoin equals 72, just like money equals 72, like Jesuit order equals 72, like how Pope Francis became the first Jesuit Pope on the 72nd day of the year. Again, last year I gave the world very good advice for Bitcoin. I saw the direction it was heading. It was crystal clear to me that it was going to be worth 72K on the 72nd day of the year, exactly what it did. And I said, right when it hits that, that's going to be, you know, how markets ebb and they flow. That's going to be when it comes back down. I said it could fall back down into the 50-some K range. It quickly fell back down to 61,000 after hitting 72. I told people when it hits 72, cash out and buy back down when it dips. We've had plenty of good calls with Bitcoin. I didn't see the surge coming to 88,000 on the day of the Pope's death at 88, but I just thought, you got to be kidding me. The reason I say we have to watch out what it does through April 27th, because it's surged up even higher. It's in the 90-some K range right now. When you run Bitcoin in reverse, Bitcoin forwards is 72, just like money. When you run it in reverse, it's 117. And we're just days from the 117th day of the year. So I wonder if we see Bitcoin continue to climb through April 27th, the 117th day. Again, that'll be a Sunday. You know, the Jesuits and Sunday. That'll be the day after the Pope's funeral. I wonder if it might dip back down. I wonder if it might continue to climb through the 117th day and then fall back down. Something I'm keeping an eye on because Bitcoin's climbing to unprecedented territory in a new all-time high, while a lot of other assets are struggling right now. So yeah, April 27th, 117th day of the year, day with a little Bitcoin connection. We'll see what happens. Again, just one more time. I like to be redundant. The Pope was hospitalized on Valentine's Day 214. He dies on the 21st of April, another 214, according to how the majority of the world writes that day. And then on that same day, Cardinal Kevin Farrell, or actually it's Bishop Kevin Farrell. I take it back. Bishop Kevin. No, he's also a cardinal. He's cardinal and bishop. Okay, got it. Cardinal and Bishop Kevin Farrell of Dallas, the 214 area code, has become the head of the Vatican until the next pope is nominated. And I feel like that has something to do with what I'm saying about J.D. Vance and the history of assassinations and Trump and where all of this is fitting in. Because remember, J.D. Vance met with the number 2 at the Vatican the day before he met with the Pope, and that was the 109th day of the year when shooting equals 109. Of course, JFK got it in Dallas. Trump, before he'd become number 47, he had that hoax where they put the oversized bandage on his ear, and then when he took it off, there wasn't even the nick of a wound. That hoax came 45 days after JFK's birthday anniversary. July 13th was 45 days after JFK's May 29th birthday anniversary. And for the record, JFK's birthday is the 149th day of the year, which is the 35th prime. Pretty fitting birthday to become number 35 and to die on I-35. Oh, by the way, Kevin Farrell, the acting head of the Vatican, was born in 47. Like Vatican equals 47. Like Francis, like authority, like government, like president, like White House, again, like Republican, like Democrat, even the letters DC when you run the alphabetic order in reverse are 47. Yeah, how perfect. So this is the one that just really blows my mind. I wish I would have known that Slipknot had performed Gematria, the Killing Name, on February 28th. I did not get this information until after the Pope died. It didn't hit my radar, and I'm wondering if it was a year ago if it wouldn't have slipped past. I have less time in a day these days because we got a little one. Our little girl just turned 5 months old on the 16th, but tell you what, raising a baby is no joke. It is very time consuming, and say goodbye to your good sleep. But yeah, I wish I would have known this because a couple years back when Corey Taylor, the singer, talked about this song, he said the only way he would ever perform this song was for the Pope. And I pointed out then how Pope equals 52 like Gematria, the 52-week calendar, the rituals synced up day after day with the Pope. And now this ritual. He performs the song for the first time ever for a live audience 52 days before the Pope dies. I mean, unbelievable. But even more unbelievable than that is the fact that the song, Gematria, the Killing Name, equals 214. 214. Like the Pope dead on 21/4 Rome's birthday. And just to read this article that was published the day they performed it, Friday, February 28th. Article goes, even though Corey Taylor, by the way, his name equals 59 like Pope Francis, and he performed it on the 59th day of the year. Even though Corey Taylor thought it would never happen, Slipknot has finally played Gematria, the Killing Name, in concert. According to Setlist FM, the Masked Metalers gave the track its live debut during their set at Knotfest Australia Friday, nearly 17 years after it was released on the Knots 2008 album, All Hope Is Gone. Back in 2023, Taylor told the All Things Music podcast that he didn't think Gematria would ever make it into the set list, even though he really wanted to play it live. That interview was given May 4th, 2023. Again, exactly 666 days before they performed it. Interesting, because 5-4, a lot like 54, Jesuit order equates to 54, so does Mark of the Beast. And don't forget, Kobe Bean Bryant also equals 54. That's Kobe's full name. He had the 666 workout. He had the career high of 81 in his 666th game. For the record, when you run it in reverse, both Kobe Bean Bryant and Mark of the Beast also equate to 81. Going on with the article, there are certain odiums around the way that the song was created and recorded, which is why some of the guys in the band are like, F that, and will never play it, Taylor said at the time. It's not even sentimental, it's resentment, but for me, man, it's such a effing burner. I just love that song. He added, unless the Pope ends up effing opening for Slipknot someday, that S will never happen. We're guessing the Pope was not in the pit, but perhaps some other religious force got the rest of Slipknot to change their minds. Knotfest Australia continues Sunday. Slipknot will then launch a European tour in June before returning to the U.S. to headline the Incarceration Festival in July. It'd be interesting to see if they play on June 13th and July 20th. One is the day leaving 201 days left in the year. The other is the 201st day of the year. Be something that they start playing the song a lot now. But yeah, Pope Francis and Corey Taylor both equate to 59 and 58. We talked about this. 59th day of the year performance, 52 days before the Pope's death, when again, Pope is 52 like Gematria. Gematria in the most simple cipher equates to 74. The song was performed for the first time ever on the 74th day of the Pope's age. In the most simple cipher, Gematria and killing both equal 74, as does holiday. The Pope dead during the time of Easter. Don't forget words like English, occult, Jesus, cross, Messiah, parables, gospel, Joshua, which is the English translation of Jesus. All of these words equate to 74. Energy is the big one. Again, the most widely watched video on YouTube about the subject of gematria is by a rabbi, and the video begins by saying gematria is simply energy. Again, remember, in Hermeticism, everything carries a vibration. Every vibration has a manipulative power. Every shape, every sound, every letter, every number. Again, the occult side of this is using this knowledge for sorcery, for spell casting. It should make you wonder, is there actually something to spells and spelling? Again, spells has to do with magic. It has to do with creating words. And it's all intertwined through English, which again equals 74, as does London, as does Independence Day. Going with this nation's birthday, 7-4, where we supposedly got free from London. Run the alphabetic order in reverse. Free equals 74, as does Roman. That's a reminder. When the Pope first became the Pope, the band Muse, they had their biggest concert ever in Rome 201 days after the Pope's birthday on July 6th. You can look up that concert by Muse on July 6, 2013 in Rome. You can buy the concert. It's a DVD box set. You can watch it on YouTube if you want with a lot of ads. But watch how the concert opens. First of all, the whole set is red, black, and white, which are the Jesuits' colors. But they open with their song Supremacy, where the opening lyrics are, your emancipation. Oh boy, I don't have it on the top of my head. But I think it's your emancipation is an illusion, meaning you're not free. You are not free. Coming back to this Slipknot thing, the song was performed on the 83rd day of Corey Taylor's age. The word murder equates to 83. For the record, helicopter crash also equals 83, and Kobe's death synced with the Pope was while the Pope was 83 years old. But it's also a reminder that the song Murder by Numbers was recorded by the Police in 83, and the movie poster for Murder by Numbers encodes the 83, and Prince did the song I Would Die For You. He recorded that song in 83. It was released in 84 on the Purple Rain album, but recorded in 83. And now how all of these things intersect. Again, Murder by Numbers by the Police is about how killing is as simple as ABC is 1, 2, 3. With regards to Gematria and Pope both equaling 52, the word Kabbalah also equals 52, and so does the Jewish word for the tree of life, Etz HaChaim. Tree of life also equates to 52. That's the physical model for Kabbalah. So 52 is a very special number, going with the 52-week calendar named after the Pope, where these rituals are done in this Kabbalistic code daily, day after day after day, this Kabbalistic code of letters and numbers and words, every day. 52, big time number. And also, it's an authority number also. We listed all the 47 things that connect to authority, government, White House, President, Vatican. A lot of those words also have the 52 connection. So 52, also a number of authority and time. But yes, from the anniversary of the release of Gematria, the Killing Name on August 20th, from that day to the Pope's death was exactly a span of 35 weeks. Slipknot equals 35. Again, like Catholic, like Holy See, like Jesuitism, like how the Pope is said to have died at 35 minutes after the hour, 7:35. 7:35. I mean, we've talked about this so many times, especially with JFK, because it's just blatant. Number 35 killed on I-35 in Dealey Plaza, named after a Mason. Again, if you want to look up Corey Taylor's remarks about how they would only perform this for the Pope, he said it on May 4th, 2023, exactly 666 days before the performance. Jesuit Order 54, the Jesuit headquarters is in Italy, the Church of the Jesu, Building 54. And in light of them spelling Jesu with a G, remember the capital G is the symbol for the Masons. Again, Mark of the Beast, also 54. And here, just for one more reminder, 2 members of the Slipknot band have died, including the drummer who used to dress up as Jesus with the crown of thorns, and also the daughter of one of the members has died. And when the daughter died, the singer asked for all the flowers and cards to be sent to the local Masonic lodge in Iowa. Slipknot's out of Iowa. But yes, Joey Jordison was the most recent death. He dressed up as Jesus. He died at 46. Catholic also equates to 46 like sacrifice. Again, JFK, number 35, dead at 46, the 2 big Catholic numbers. Jordison was the drummer. Drummer, killing, Gematria in English all equal 38. Gematria, the killing name, that's the other overlap, is 38. And let's not forget that the Pope was in the hospital for 38 days, because he was. I mentioned that at the time. I was like, that's interesting that he was in there for 38 days and he didn't die. I mean, that number is always connected to death. Some people are saying that he really did die. If you don't know the actor Jonathan Pryce, Pryce portrayed Pope Francis in the film The Two Popes, and the two men do look very much alike. And for the record, Jonathan Pryce equals 201. Anthony Hopkins is in that movie, and he played Pope Benedict. And when Benedict died, it was perfectly synced with Anthony Hopkins. And you know what? I think Francis's death was synced with Anthony Hopkins as well, because Pope Francis died on the 111th day of the year, having a name that equaled 111, and he died 111 days from Anthony Hopkins' birthday. Hopefully he's not getting the Hannibal Lecter treatment somewhere, but man, he sure did get beefy with that quadruple neck there at the end of his life, if that was even him. Anyway, he would have made some good eating. The body of Pope Francis shed for you. The blood of Pope Francis shed for you. Don't be surprised if the creeps on the world stage, if somewhere something like that's going on. A lot of you guys are part of that religion where you drink blood and eat body every Sunday. And you really got to think about these things. What kind of weird cult are you a member of? Are you sure your cult is a beneficial thing to the world? Are you sure the belief systems of your cult is actually beneficial to anybody other than the people who are collecting from you with the collection plate and have you doing and believing very strange things? Wearing strange objects around your neck? Part of a massive death cult where it's centered on human sacrifice? Have you actually thought about your religion? By the way, you guys, that last broadcast was very costly. I lost over 100 supporters, financial supporters. It happens every time I rant about religion. I'm probably losing financial supporters right now, but I will never compromise my message for financial support. I'd rather not be supported by people who'd rather give their money to things like Santa Claus rather than a guy who grinds it out every single day for going on 12 years, bringing unprecedented truth that has the power to change the world. If you'd rather give your money to people who lie to you in costumes and sell you fairy tales that have been sold to you from the time you're a child that are all based in fear, believe or you'll go to hell, if that's what you want to fall victim to, trust me, it's not me that has the problem. Anyway, coming back, Joey Jordison, he died on a date with 38 numerology at 46. Sacrifice 46, Slipknot 46, Gematria 38, killing 38, murder 38, death 38, etc., etc. Now, the member of the band who died before him was Paul Gray. And Paul Gray died at 38, and he died 46 days after his birthday. And he died on May 24th, which is the 144th day of the year. Jesuit Order and Mark of the Beast both equate to 144 as well as 54. For the record, so does Kennedy Curse, 144 and 54. It's like RFK Jr., born in 54, getting in the race 144 days after the Superior General's birthday, going with his dad dying in the Ambassador Hotel, which equals 54 at 1:44 a.m., going with his uncle JFK dying 144 days from meeting with the Pope in Dealey Plaza, which equals 54. Again, they find ways to put these same numbers together all the time. And again, Paul Gray and Joey Jordison, both dead in connection to 46 and 38. And with regards to Jordison, he also died 144 days before Pope Francis's birthday, who's now died in a Jesuit ritual himself in connection to Slipknot's music. I mentioned how Joey Jordison died on a date with 38 numerology. Again, there's multiple paths. That day also had 74 date numerology. Gematria and killing both equal 74 the big way, 38 the small way. Dies on a day with 74 and 38 numerology. There's also a lesser date numerology path where you just add the day plus the month plus the end part of the year. So July 26, 21 would be 7 plus 26 plus 21, which equates to 54. Lesser date numerology of 54, 144 days before the Pope's birthday. Think about it. And yeah, Joey Jordison dressed up as Jesus with the crown of thorns. But it looked more like a satanic Jesus with the face painting and everything. Remember, Jesus, cross, Messiah, gospel, parables, they all have the 74 connection. Dead in a very Jesus ritual, synced through the Jesuit code with the Pope. Think about it. And these decodes were given out years ago when they happened. So just look at this as an ongoing narrative where the facts continue to fall in a way that only makes everything shown before more and more true and more undeniable. Okay, now with regards to the Pope, his birthday is Saturnalia. And what's really interesting about Saturnalia is a few different things. If you write out Saturn worship, it equates to 201. Saturnalia is a day to worship Saturn, ancient Roman festival. If you write out Saturnian order, it equates to 201. If you write out sacrifice to Saturn, it equates to 201. And I can't tell you, there wasn't a year that passed where there wasn't a very obvious death on May 30th, which was 201 days before the Pope's birthday. Beau Biden was one of those deaths. Again, Beau Biden died at 46 before Joe Biden became number 46. The same Jesuit priest whose name equaled 201 did the funeral for Beau and the inauguration for Joe on the 201st day of the nation's age. But again, the Pope was born on Saturnalia to worship Saturn, which is what Saturday is named after. And originally the Sabbath day is Saturday. The Catholic churches who moved it to Sunday because they began as a sun cult. And this is what's also annoying about Christians, that they can't even see through these obvious things. They're not worshiping on the Sabbath day. They're not keeping it holy. They're going on the sun cult's day. And once upon a time, the Catholic Church went around with their military and said, you're going to follow our ways or you're going to end up over there on the guillotine or with this dagger through your heart or this knife or this sword through you. Jesus said, I came to bring the sword and divide the family. And the Catholic Church has been doing his bidding ever since and making you drink his blood and eat his body. But anyway, this Saturday will be his funeral. This Saturday is the 116th day of the year. Saturnalia equates to 116. It'll be 130 days after the Pope's birthday. Human sacrifice equates to 130. Today, the 112th day of the year, the day after his death, you might notice the news all day was very focused on the details of his funeral. They released these details. They went over it. Funeral happens to equal 112 like Catholicism, and it's the 112th day of the year. Again, the Jesuits operate in 112 countries. On the 112th day, we're getting all the deets about the Pope's funeral this Saturday. It will take place at 10 a.m. local time. And with regards to it being at 10 and the sync they have going here with the days of mourning ending on the Church of Satan's birthday. I'd like you to look up the song by Church of Satan member Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson put out the song When You Say God, I Say 10. SAY number 10, 10, say 10. When you say God, I say 10. That's the chorus for the Marilyn Manson song. God equates to 10 in Gematria, so does Satan. Very interesting, the duality. God and Satan both also equate to 55, and the funeral will be on Melania Trump's 55th birthday. Again, the wife of Trump, who runs on the highest degree of the Church of Satan, who this death ritual is very much synced with. I have a lot more to look into with the church or the funeral, but just off the top, that's what stood out. Oh, also, they said right now 135 cardinals are eligible to appoint the next pope. 135. Interesting number for a couple reasons. For one, the singer for Slipknot, Mr. Gematria, the killing name, who performed it for the Pope died on the 135th day of his age. The second reason is Bavaria equates to 135, and again, that's where the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt founded the Illuminati. A third reason it's interesting is the phrase the key of David equates to 135. And that's in Revelation 3 in the letter to the Church of Philadelphia about the synagogue of Satan, those who claim to be Jews but are not. The city of Philadelphia in the United States, which is not the biblical Philadelphia. Again, the biblical Philadelphia is in Turkey. But the Philadelphia in the United States was established on a date with 135 numerology. The number 135 is all over Philadelphia sports rituals. You just saw San Francisco become 13-5 versus Philadelphia. And by the way, did you guys see that the Giants yesterday on the day of the Pope's death became 5-2 at home, winning 5-2? We had a hunch that that's exactly what they would win with yesterday before the game was played. Pope equals 52 again. Pope Francis is named after St. Francis of Assisi, like the city. And by the way, the Giants came into yesterday's game with 111 runs scored on the year, like it was the 111th day of the year, again going with the Pope's name. They scored 5 runs, putting them at 116, which is going to be the day of the Pope's funeral. Just for the record, the only 2 teams this year that started the year 14-7 were the Mets, who did it first, and then the Giants, who did it second. The Giants and Mets both wear orange, like Trump's the Orange Goon. World Series equals 147. You might recall last year, the Yankees finished the year with the best run differential, plus 147. And the World Series began 147 days after Dave Roberts' birthday. And sure enough, Dave Roberts beat the Yankees in the World Series. Watch out for the Mets and the Giants this year. And don't forget that Juan Soto, he celebrated his record contract with the Mets 121 days before the club that he hung out at collapsed and killed all those people, including 2 Major League Baseball players. Octavio Dotel, who was drafted by the Mets. But yeah, it was 121 days from celebrating the contract to the collapse, and it'll be the 121st World Series this year. Hey, sorry, I'm getting kind of tangential, but coming back to this Philadelphia thing. Philadelphia is the 267 area code. The next pope is the 267th. Philadelphia is connected to the key of David, which equals 135. 135 cardinals are going to elect the next pope. I'm looking at this and I'm going, I've talked about a lot with these numbers coming together in rituals with Philadelphia sports. I haven't gone through the whole list of cardinals, but I'm just wondering, is there one out there that somehow, some way fits in with all that's in Revelation 3? I'm going to have to take a good look at that. Because remember, the synagogue of Satan are those who claim to be Jews but are not, and Jewish equals 88. The popes do wear those small fitteds, if you know what I mean. But yeah, again, it might be a lot to handle, especially when I'm doing these streams with no numbers on the screen. But if you're listening or you need to put something together again, you can always rewind it, play it back, slow it down. I'm just telling you, these numbers, they come together a lot in ritualism. The way they're doing with the Pope is not the first time I've seen these numbers combined. You follow the sports and the way the games are rigged, you'll realize how often these sports or these numbers in relation to certain cities are used like routine combinations. Kobe Bean Bryant, for example, Philadelphia product, 135. The big model for the Eagles, Fly Eagles Fly, 135. Carson Wentz, once upon a time, rookie quarterback for the Eagles, set the NFL record with 135 passes without an interception. Philly, 135. We'll see what happens. Now, here's the other thing. Is there going to be a 267th Pope? Is it going to happen? Because according to St. Malachi, Pope Francis is the last Pope. And this was trending in the news when Kobe died. And we covered it back then. We haven't talked about this since 2020, but here was the big parallel. St. Malachi equates to 126. If you run the alphabetic order in reverse, Malachi alone equates to 126. Pope Francis died on the 126th day of his age. St. Malachi said a long, long time ago that this pope would be the last pope. And what's interesting is when he made the prophecies, he said there will only be 112 more popes. Pope Francis was the 112th pope since that prediction. And remember, the Jesuits claimed to operate in 112 countries. Catholicism 112, mathematics 112. If you look, from Pope Francis's birthday to his death was also a span of 4 months and 5 days. St. Malachi, the small way, is 45, like IHS is 45. It was also a span of 18 weeks. In the base ciphers, IHS, the acronym for the Jesuit motto, Isus Hominum Salvator, IHS equals 36. Pope Francis, born in 36, became the leader of the Jesuits in Argentina when he was 36 years old. IHS with numerology applied is 18. In reverse, it's 45. In reverse with numerology, it's also 18. And that's noteworthy because the word sun, S-U-N, equals 18 in that cipher. The Jesuit logo is the sun with the letters IHS. St. Malachi in reverse with numerology equates to 72, just like Jesuit order, like how Pope Francis became the first Jesuit pope on the 72nd day of the year. And just to take you back in time, if you want to look up this article, so it was published 13 days before Kobe died on 126. Remember in the Bible, God makes man in Genesis 126. But the Express out of the UK, they published this article. Pope Francis central to apocalypse prophecy as end of earth reference revealed. So after the Express covered this, you know how media will syndicate and copycat and do the same story. This was running in the news in the days up to Kobe's death. And you might recall that Kobe's death was foreshadowed in a Comedy Central cartoon where he dies in a helicopter called End of Days. And consider Kobe's from Philly, and Philly's part of biblical revelation, a book of prophecy about the end of the world, the apocalypse. But that End of Days, it came out on November 16th. The majority of the world writes that date 1611, like the King James Bible came out in 1611 when King James, in the year he turned 45 years old, like Holy Bible's 45. And remember, LeBron won the finals that year on Father-Daughter Day, 41 weeks after his own birthday, after Kobe died at age 41, when Kobe Bryant, LA, and King all equal 41. But apocalypse also equates to 41. And what's interesting is Kobe Bryant and apocalypse in the base ciphers are the exact same in 3 out of the 4 ciphers. They're 113, 41, and 157. And remember, Kobe died on the 157th day of his age at age 41. And on the 113th day, what it was the 113th day of Kobe Bryant's age. If you go back and look, he was in the news for helping a stranded motorist in LA. Somebody had an accident, and Kobe reportedly pulled over and helped them out and got them out of the ditch. You can look up that story of Kobe helping out the motorist. That was on the 113th day of his age. And then 44 days later, he had an accident of his own, supposedly dying again at 41 on the Pope's 41st day of his age while traveling from Catholic Mass. But yeah, Kobe's connected to End of Days cartoon that foreshadowed his death in a helicopter. And then this thing was circulating about how the Pope is connected to the coming apocalypse. So with that in mind, hey, Man, tomorrow's the 113th day of the year. Let's hope St. Malachi is wrong, because if not, man, we better find our billionaire bunker as soon as tomorrow. And keep in mind, a lot of the world is already well into tomorrow, and as far as I know, the world's still going, so I think we're going to be okay. But yeah, there are a lot of stresses in the world right now at the time of this Pope's death, aren't there? You know, crazy things happening in the economy, the chumps back in office doing wild things, rumors of greater wars with what's brewing between Israel and other nations in the Middle East, what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, the supposed Easter ceasefire that Putin broke right away. Not to forget that Netanyahu came back into power on December 29th on Albert Pike's birthday, who wrote the letter about 3 world wars and again published it on August 15th, 1871, which was the Jesuit order's birthday. And there was that year 71 again, like Catholic 71. But yeah, all this really does make you scratch your head and think a little bit. So we'll see if they're going to do any funny business with the Malachi thing. I think April 23rd is their day to play with people's heads, because again, it is the 113th day of the year. The Express got this story rolling on January 13th, 113 again in 2020. And it was right before Kobe's death and his burial in Corona del Mar, as the Corona was kicking off. So, and don't forget, Kobe Bryant equals 58, like Pope Francis, and it was the last year of Trump being in office after taking the 58th election, one of many 58 rituals with Kobe. Yeah, I have a post with a lot more information on this at my website, GematriaEffectNews. But back then I was showing why they were doing this St. Malachi thing with Kobe's death on 126. Again, St. Malachi, it said, was an Irish saint and archbishop of Armagh, if I'm saying that right, to whom were attributed several miracles and an alleged vision of 112 popes later attributed to the apocryphal prophecy of the popes. It is now believed by scholars that this document was a forgery created by Cardinal Girolamo. I might be mutilating that name as well. Simon Selly. So let's hope it was a forgery. Let's hope we have absolutely nothing to worry about. But it is all a bit curious, because the Pope did die too, just right before the 113th day of the year. And if you're new here and you don't know about the NBA and 113, man, do they go ballistic with 113. you pay attention. The National Basketball Association equals 113. Remember, they had to lock down after Kobe Bryant 113 died, and the lockdown of the NBA was blamed on the player from France, Rudy Gobert, who played for the Utah Jazz, the only 113 team in the NBA. And the only city in the NBA that has the 113 connections, Dallas, and they did finish their game that day and scored 113 points. But remember, coronavirus pandemic's also 113. The NBA locked down, and then the pandemic was declared all on the same day. The Jesuits out of France, Rudy Gobert, the Frenchie. These people got endless jokes. Oh, by the way, the Wuhan lab, established in 1956 by the French. You know how we've been talking about the Eddington trailer and how it's clearly paying tribute to yours truly and my many quotes from the time of the scandemic forwards? Somebody did an additional decode and noticed that from the day the pandemic was declared, actually, let me just make sure I'm not taking their word for it, but the person who left this comment is credible. He said from March 11th, 2020, the day the pandemic was declared, to the day the movie comes out, Eddington, which begins with the quote about 1956 about the Wuhan lab, which is yours truly's quote. He said that's 1956 days. Let me see if that's true. Wow, it is. March 11, 2020 to the day the Eddington movie comes out, where the trailer begins with a mention of 1956, the year the lab was established, that Tom Hanks was born, that Jonas Salk, his jab was given to Elvis on live TV, which was Bill Gates' first birthday. Again, all that in 56. Really, they're releasing this movie 1956 days from the scandemic. Unbelievable. Unbelievable the way they do it. Again, there's a fine line between Hollywood and the news. The same way movies are released is the same way news is contrived by this Kabbalistic code. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the dates. It's all about the counting system. You can count on it. We're going to play that phrase out over here with the count on it. Okay. And again, I mean, isn't it fitting? Sunday night I was going big on 56. You know, it really all goes back to the Pope and the Jesuits. The next day the Pope's dead, and that leaves us with one more thing to talk about. What they did to Shannon Sharp, who's 56 years old on the same day the Pope died. Shannon Sharp's birthday is June 26th. Majority of the world writes that date 26/6. If you've been paying attention, you already know where I'm going. Pope Francis, the 266th Pope. And Shannon Sharp's gotten a lot of attention. His podcast has really taken off. He's making buku money from his podcast, Club Shay Shay. Run the Gematria Club Shay Shay and tell me how it overlaps with Jesuit order. You won't miss it with the big fat 144. Again, this news breaks the day of Pope Francis' death. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 312. Shannon Sharp from the 312 area code Chicago, dead on Trump's 312th day of his age. Trump also with the sexual assault accusations. Sexual assault equates to 175, just like Pope Francis. And also noteworthy, Shannon Sharp was born on 119 date numerology, 6 plus 26 plus 19 plus 68. His birthday is June 26, 1968, 68 the year of years. Francis and Vatican equal 119. And 119 is also the 88th composite number, going with Francis being dead at 88. Remember in the hit show House of Cards, which came out and was on TV in the time Trump ran the first time, when Trump cards are associated with cards. Again, the president of that show is Francis Underwood, and both Francis and Underwood equals 119 and 47, just like Francis and Vatican. Just like Trump equals 47 and Donald equals 119. And the first time around, they called the election for him on November 9th, 2016, 119. And this time he takes office with the 119th Congress. Not to mention tarot cards equals 119. But anyway, they already did a 119 ritual with Shannon Sharp. You might recall last year on September 11th, viral story was that he accidentally recorded himself having sex. That was the big viral story that day. So we went from that, which was kind of like some kind of humiliation ritual, or was it really? Because but anyway, just the point is that they connected him to sex, and now it's sexual assault on the day the Pope is dead. And again, dead at 50, the Pope's dead and Shannon Sharp's 56. Pope equals 56, just like Society of Jesus equals 56, like Black Lives Matter equals 56. Again, that was painted on Church Street on the 5th day of the 6th month back in the time of George Floyd, which was a massive 201 ritual. Just for the record, George Perry Floyd equals 201. He was killed exactly 201 weeks after Adama Traore, who was killed on the 201st day of the year. In similar fashion, their names were protested together. That set off a whole bunch of events, including the tearing down of the only Confederate statue in D.C. of Albert Pike, which was 201 days before January 6th, when the word Confederate is 201. And you might recall, after January 6th, they were comparing the police and military present from the Black Lives Matter protest when it happened in D.C. to the one with Trump's protesters, trying to make things about race, because that's what the Jesuits do. They contrive these rituals by their code, and then they get people to take sides, and they polarize the nation with their actions. But yeah, also noteworthy, Shannon Sharp's a 3-time Super Bowl winner, and he won 2 of his Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos equals 71 like Catholic, and this ritual with him came 71 days after Super Bowl 59, when Pope Francis is 59. Again, that was won by Philadelphia, the 267 area code, and the next Pope's 267. And in light of him winning 3 Super Bowls, remember when you spell out 3 as a word, it equals 56, like there's 3 Abrahamic religions, and Abrahamic is also 56. You run it in reverse, Abrahamic's 187, like there's 187 chapters in the Torah, which is the basis of the Abrahamic religions. But yeah, another thing, my first book, Letters and Numbers, if you never read it, Chapter 18 is about the racial shaming and sometimes murder of black celebrities and how they bring the numbers 59 and 42 together. Again, they got this synced up with Super Bowl 59 on the day of the death of the Pope, whose name equals 59. And the shaming comes 42 weeks and days after Shannon Sharp's birthday. Slave equals 59. Slavery equates to 42. And there's a lot more to that list, but they put those numbers together redundantly. So, and you look at almost every article about Shannon Sharp, they all link to the related article of what they did to Deshaun Watson once he went to the Browns. Again, just you take a look around, a lot of ritual humiliation and shaming of darker complected men, and you take a look at it, you're going to see that the same numbers were stamped on all these rituals, 59, 42. They did the exact same thing with Deshaun Watson. A new headline also that emerged out of the Shannon Sharp thing today. This wasn't yesterday when the news broke on the Pope's death. This is the new headline today. Shannon Sharp apparently heard saying, "I'll choke the shit out of you." That phrase equals 112. That's the headline for the 112th day of the year. And that's what I mean when we call it news by the numbers. News by the numbers. And by the way, it's just like also in the news today. Jalen Hurts getting married to Bly Burrow. 112th day of the year. Super Bowl equals 112. He's fresh off the Super Bowl win. It's the 22nd of the month. Eagles equals 22. They just beat the Chiefs. Gave the Chiefs their 22nd postseason loss in the Super Bowl. Chiefs lost with 22 points. Go back and check the box scores for the Eagles. In 3 out of their 4 postseason games, 22 was in the final score. You learn these numbers, you'll see the ritualism on the field, off the field. The games are rigged. The news is rigged. The election's rigged. The market's rigged. The crypto's rigged. And all by this Kabbalistic code. Thus the term the cabal, the secret political faction that controls world affairs. For anyone who says there's no way to prove if that's real or not, think again, because we've been proving it every day for 12 years straight. That's the point of learning this knowledge. Most people who enter the conspiracy realm and try and connect dots, they might have a little success, but it's sad how few people are in that realm who sleep on this knowledge. This is the knowledge to actually connect the dots and understand what is taking place in the world. So we had a couple super chatters tonight. Shout out to Eloy Garcia with the generous dollar. Shout out to Roblanto who put 20 on it. Said support from the 214. Yeah, hey, you should have the easiest time in spreading this knowledge because people understand the area code. That should really stand out to them about how the Dallas Cardinal is the one running the Vatican right now. Eloy came in with another big 5. Appreciate that, Eloy. Gematria Sense said, what do you think about thunderbolts coming out on 5/2? Could be some weather warfare. Also, Oklahoma City 52. You're thinking exactly like me. For people who don't know, weather warfare was first admitted to in 1952 on the Jesuit order's birthday, August 15th, with the Lynmouth flood. For years, we've documented obscene weather in connection to dates that have a 52 numerology, 52nd day of the year, etc., etc. It's a major pattern. So yeah, watch out for May 2nd. No doubt about it. Today had a lesser date numerology of 47. So what's that mean? 5 days from today is April 20. Hold on. I'm doing this late night math right now. No, hold on. You guys, tomorrow, April 23rd, 25 is going to be a date with a lesser numerology of 52. Well, I hope there's not anything crazy weather-wise tomorrow, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me. These 52 dates come along, and what do you know? Obscene flooding, unprecedented weather. Lately, it's been tornadoes in places you'd never expect it. Don't forget, last year, they put out that movie, Twisters, the sequel, on the 201st day of the leap year. That was July 19th, and a leap year, July 19th is the 201st day of the year. Ever since that movie came out, there's been crazy tornadoes in places that just don't get tornadoes historically. And remember, weather control and the Jesuit order both equate to 201 177 and 69. They have a triple overlap in 3 out of the 4 base ciphers. Real Talk said he's no Buddy Rich, but Jordanson was talented. Yeah, I don't like Slipknot at all, but I can hear that the drummer's talented. I won't deny that either. Open Up says it's unfortunate Elon the puppet had your Twitter yeah, it is. Yeah, if you guys don't know, my Twitter was deleted 7 days after the salute for calling it out. And it's too bad because I was starting to get really good views on there. I was averaging 2,000 viewers a live stream, some better. I think our Super Bowl stream was close to 10,000 people on the live stream, if I remember right. Or no, hold on. It wasn't the Super Bowl stream. It was because my thing was deleted before the Super Bowl was played. It was the conference champions stream. We had nearly 10,000 people on the stream. It was like 7,800 or something. It was approaching 10K. And yeah, I was like, okay, maybe I can finally reach people again on Twitter. And then next thing you know, the whole thing's deleted. And then meanwhile, you got all these people on the right going, Elon Musk is restoring free speech on social media. It's like, no, he's not. As soon as he took it up. Don't forget, you guys, he proposed $54 a share on April 14th. That's when the whole process began on 14/4, $54 a share. Jesuit order 54 and 144. Censorship also equals 54 and 144. As soon as he took that thing over, and he officially did on Bill Gates' birthday, funny enough, October 28th, I started getting posts. If you ever got censored on Twitter, you'll usually get a message and it'll say, you need to get rid of this post or you cannot post again. Or nobody, because you use this phrase, nobody can see your post and you cannot post again until you get rid of this. I started having that happening like once a week. I had never had that happen on Twitter ever. I never dealt with any censorship on Twitter. And I don't represent either side of the political aisle. I call out the left and right. You know, I'm a free agent. I see through the whole two-party deception. But yeah, as soon as Musk gets in there with the administration, deleted 7 days later. Never had that happen on Twitter. I've been deleted 20 sometimes on YouTube. I've been deleted on Facebook. I've been deleted all over the place. I've been deleted on video platforms that don't even exist anymore. I've been totally censored on BitChute and Rumble. But never had I been deleted on Twitter until the Musk. Yeah. True story, Open Up. Yeah, we would be getting great views on there. It is a damn shame. Jared Bailey versus the World points out that the gematria of the Queen's birthday, the phrase, equals 201 and 258, like order of Illuminati. Very interesting. Evan out of Dallas says 214 is the 70th semi-prime. Vatican 70. Francis 70. Wow. We got some great students out there. Yeah, it adds to it. Open Up says Shannon Sharp holds the single game receiving yard record for tight ends, 214 yards. Oh my God, are you serious? The plot thickens. Our first show, we took calls and they went off without a hitch. Since that first show, we've started having a glitch with the call board, and what I was told through troubleshooting is I probably need to upgrade my phone to a newer model of the phone. I was going to take calls and do it the ghetto way, just straight through the mic, but I just realized I left my phone in the bedroom where the baby and sweet lady are sleeping. So I think we're actually going to have to leave out the phone call session tonight. I don't know if I'll be able to get a new phone as soon as this Thursday. It's hard for me to do anything besides do this work and watch the baby these days, but I will get a new phone sometime soon so that we can have this call board thing go off without a hitch. I do like taking the calls. For the time being, when this video ends, you can leave comments right now in the live chat. It's fine you leave comments there, but if you want to participate in this, I would like to take a collection of good comments and questions for the next show. And I would like to make that a routine part of the show. At the end of the show, just go over the top comments and questions. So if you want to leave a comment or a question after this video posts, and again, remember it's YouTube, so I would recommend if you're going to post a comment, especially if it's longer, highlight your whole comment first and do a Control-C or a copy, so that if when you post it, it just vanishes into cyberspace, because Google does that all the time now. They delete comments left and right from my channel because it keeps me down in the algorithm. They take away likes, they take away views, they take away comments. It's what they do to suppress the channel. But what I've noticed is if you copy your comment, it usually, like if you post and it deletes, if you try it again, it'll usually stick the second time or sometimes the third time. And then that way you're not having to write out your paragraph again. It'll save you a lot of gray hairs. But yeah, if you guys want to leave a great comment or question there, I'll start going through those. I'll take a collection of screenshots so I have them, and I'll read off those comments and questions. And by the way, for a lot of people out there who come across my work and do have questions, if you guys would just read my books, and I've made them free to download, so you don't even have to buy them. You can download them for free. I guarantee almost every question you have about my work is answered in those books. Because trust me, I have new people ask me the same questions every single day. And I usually answer them, but it also gets maddening because I have been here for 12 years answering the same questions over and over. And my first book's been out for close to a decade now. And I'm just like, I mean, I've answered the same question, you guys. I can't even estimate. I guarantee the same questions, I've answered them thousands upon thousands of times. Way more times than copies of books I've sold. To make a long story short, if I'd gotten a penny for every time I'd answered these questions, I think I would be quite wealthy. So look into downloading my books for free off my Patreon. If you don't want to pay for them, just go to patreon.com/Zachary K. Hubbard, and then in the search, just search ebooks. There'll be numerous things that pull up. You can just download them right off there. The first 100 pages of letters and numbers is like a beginner tutorial for this knowledge. And probably every question you have will be answered in those first 100 pages. Maybe not every last question, but the majority of them. You'll understand the who, what, why, when, and where. So, and yeah, you can get physical copies of the books on Amazon and other book retailers. Just for the record, Number Games on Amazon, when you buy that, I get about $2 per copy. Thank you to everyone who buys it. Amazon has raised the price quite a bit. It's out of my control. I do not control the price on Amazon. When it was first on there, they had it at $15. I think they're now selling it for $25. It's funny how it works because I get paid the same thing no matter what. I get $2 every time. So now apparently Amazon makes way more off it. But my first book, Letters and Numbers, there's a woman in Canada, her name is Anne, and I gave her permission to sell my first book in written form, and that book's nearly 800 pages, so she's putting it out in volumes, and she's released 3 volumes, which is close to the first half of the book, and she's only charging a few dollars per volume, so she hasn't made it expensive, but all the money and proceeds for that go to her, and I gave her that permission, and to me, that was worth it, because I was hoping that if it did sell a lot, maybe it would free her up from her career and she could do more to contribute to the work and help get the knowledge out there. I've allowed other people to sell my books in digital form on eBay. Again, I never got into this for money, but I did realize along the way that if we had money and resources, we could probably do a lot more with getting the work out there. Like I've joked many times, if we had 1 million people pledging $1 a month, we could have a private jet, a news studio and team of people in every major city in America. The Pope's dead. We could hop on GematriaEffectNews, Air Force 11, and fly over to the Vatican and set up the speaker system and get on the streets about why the Pope's really dead on the 111th day of the year. And then when the next story breaks, we can hop on the jet and get on the ground there too. And right now it sounds far-fetched because at the moment we got 3,000 people pledging $1 a month, which means we're 997,000 short of the goal, but you never know. Maybe one viral stream, and all of a sudden we're in business. So here's 12 years and counting. It might take another 12 years, maybe another 24. You just never know. But I do think one day there is going to be the breakthrough, and there might someday be the GematriaEffectNews Air Force One or whatever number we want to throw on it. Again, for people who are new here, check out our live streams that still exist on the internet from when we go pound payment. We'll go out right in the busiest places in the world, Madison, or what I'm saying, Madison Square Garden. Yeah, they should put us in Madison Square Garden, but what's the place just down the street from there? What's the place with all the screens all over? I can't think what it's called. Times Square. Times Square. Yeah, when we were in Times Square speaking on the street, you would have never believed who showed up. Flava Flav. And when we asked Flava Flav point blank period, we said, hey, Flava Flav, why did you guys put out an album called What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down? His handler, who had this giant diamond necklace that was a huge star of David. He just grabbed Flava Flav and just rushed him right out of there when we asked him about what you're going to do when the grid goes down. And by the way, if you are new here, we use that album's release to help some people out because we explained why that album was synced with Valentine's Day and why to expect power outages across the nation on Valentine's Day. And you might recall that was the year of the crazy weather in Texas, the freeze over that put the power out for a week. My home city of Portland was without power for over a week. Atlanta was out without power for a few days because of the crazy frozen weather from coast to coast. Yeah, the cover of that album shows Arizona, which is the Valentine's Day state. And from the release of that album to Valentine's Day was 142 days, a bit like 14/2, like how Valentine's Day can be written 14/2. But we put out that warning long in advance. We said, hey, be ready for a power outage that day. And it's cold that time of year, so make sure you got some stuff to stay warm on hand. I got to tell you, though, I was pretty surprised when they did it to Houston. I was like, man, they made it that cold in Houston? That blows my mind. This weather warfare is wicked. And think about it, because the other piece of that was it was 322 days after Klaus Schwab's birthday, old 322, straight up Kabbalah. Klaus Schwab was simulating power outages and cyber attacks and all this. And, of course, he's been part of the Agenda 2030 Great Reset plan. Think about how they froze over Houston, a major refining city, and something symbolic that was blamed on climate change. Ooh, man, there's so much greenhouse gases that even Houston's frozen over. We don't call it global warming anymore. But, yeah, it was super symbolic and also super predictable when you understand what's really going on and that, again, literally weather warfare has been admitted to for, well, we're getting close to 100 years. I mean, 1952, it won't be long before it's the 100th anniversary. All right, True Seeker, we will leave it there for now. Thank you again to everyone who hits the like and the share. Please do leave some good comments, but do copy them before you paste them just in case YouTube wants to send them into the cyberspace black hole. And yeah, I will be looking for those good comments and questions, and they will be part of Thursday night stream, and we'll just start making that a weekly tradition, a little interaction. And yeah, whenever I can get the new phone, which is supposed to solve the problem here with the call board, we'll get back to taking some calls at the end of the stream too. So again, appreciate everyone who hits the like and the share. Thank you to everyone who supports the work. If you ever feel like supporting the work for the first time, there's a list of ways right up there on the screen. And it is greatly appreciated. Yours truly does put in a lot of work. And like everybody else, there are bills to pay. Until next time, True Seeker, have a good night.